Alright, so the new update is live, and the new update has brought us some very interesting changes. Now, the Navy battleships, Navy frigates, and the Special Edition faction cruisers have received a significant buff on their passive shield regeneration. Now, is it better than it used to be? Yes. Is it in a ideal position? Well, not exactly. I would say that there is still room for improvements, and I would say that they can easily buff the passive shield regeneration a lot more. But is it a good step in the right direction? Yes, it is, definitely. I'm very happy to see the buff on passive shield regeneration on all of these ships. The frigates have the fastest regeneration, I believe, and this is definitely not the last updates that will change their passive shield stats. I'm sure that there's going to be a lot more on the way, and it will be fun to see how the ships will perform now. Now, of course, I know that there are some changes done to some of the faction cruisers that are kind of specific. For example, the Celos has received extra tracking, and I know that the Drestia has been changed as well, but I'll be covering those ships in a different video. Today I'll be flying the Megathron Navy. Now, this is obviously not my ship. I usually have different color options for my nanocore, but you know, my boss likes this color, so I'm not going to I'm not going to change the color on this ship. It is not my Megathron Navy, but let's see the stats on this thing real quick. Now, primarily I'm going to be focusing on the attributes and fitting, because this is where the change will be noticed. 1000 tolerant seconds is the shield recharge on the Megathron Navy, and it's going to be the same recharge on all of the Navy ships. Used to be 6.9 thousands. Well, I mean 1.2 thousand is okay, but it's much better than the previous recharge. Now, the Megathron Navy has been indirectly buffed because the railguns have received a bit more range, and the railguns are generally known as shotguns, basically. And now the optimal range is 16.38 and tracking speed 10.54. Optimal is 9. So overall the range of the railguns has been slightly improved, and now the blasters can hit at a longer distance. Same can be said about the ordinary railguns as well. Now, this is basically not my ship, but this is the build that I use on the Megathron Navy. This ship is also focused on tank. It has a very nice balanced 74% resistance value in the station. It has very cheap integrations, and overall they do get the job done. It has a bonus on. It has rigs for armor repair, and of course it does cover some resistance holes on this ship. Now, when I got the ship, it was built in a slightly different way. When I return the ship, it will be back into its original build. But I'm very happy with how tanky this thing looks. Now let me undock and let me show you the active stats. Now this is I think the second Megathron Navy that I tried out. The first one did have a bit more, let's say, bling attached to it. Definitely was a much more expensive build. But this Megathron Navy still has 368,000 hit points, 87, 10, and 82% resistances, which are honestly pretty good. And this is with the thermal circulation implant that is for, I think, long range. Yeah, it should be. Actually, no, it's for armor resistance. So it is a fairly tanky navy. 405.45 meters per second is the afterburner speed, which is about the same as it used to be, and the siege mode DPS 2385.95, which again is pretty good for a tank build. It can get about 6-7,000 DPS if I take the original build, which is impressive. Why won't my ship dock? There we go. Okay, can dock with siege mode apparently. That's new. Now let's quickly take a look at the stats of the other Navy ships, since it got me curious. So the Raven Navy here has 42,000 shields, and it has the same recharge. I think, yeah, they have basically the same recharge they have the same recharge. Okay, will be interesting. I believe that the Armor Navy will be not Armor Navy, but I believe that the Raven and Tempest Navy will be the tankiest because of the passive shield regeneration, especially if you give them the new module. So the new module, I think they also have changed that. There is a lot of changes, to be honest. The new shield extender and a large shield generator. Okay, there we go. Now it does improve the boost amount, which is interesting. This is the passive boost amount, by the way. 7.41%, and I think you can fit multiple. Now, of course, unfortunately, they're still not on the market. These modules are like ridiculously rare. So when these modules become more affordable, I think I would be able to do something very silly with them, and I really can't wait to actually do that. But with that being said, how does the Megathron Navy perform in combat? Well, time to find out. Now, I primarily use the Megathron Navy to clear Inquisitor and Scout anomalies. They have become one of my new source of ISK income, as well as a new source of blueprints. Now, I usually get blueprints from exploration, but we can also do these special anomalies that tend to give you some very good loot. I mean, I really had very good loot drops recently, and all of the blueprints that I find, I built. I built the rig, I built the module, and then the module goes on the market. It is in a way much more profitable to do that, since I already have a lot of materials, and if you already have a lot of materials, you might as well put those materials to use. Now, I can tell you that this ship does do slightly more damage than it used to, which is very good. I would say the extra range on the railguns was definitely quite surprising. They're already known to have like the shortest range, but the overall highest DPS, and with the siege modes, you will definitely wreck anything that you hit. So the overall performance of the blasters on the Megathron Navy are really good. I'm very happy with how they perform. Now, with the thermocirculation implant, you can actually extend your range even more. You can use the thermocirculation implants in a more passive way, I would say, either for extra armor or extra range, although this implant is still one of the best passive implants in the game, since you don't necessarily want to activate it, because the effect for extra range or extra armor resistance does work until hit level 30. Above 30, you lose the effect. But after you reach hit 70, basically 70 and above, you gain about 60 or 70% extra DPS. It depends on your implant level, which is a very good damage boost. Does give you a higher damage boost than the high power coil, but the effect does last much shorter. So basically it is like a shotgun. This is how I feel like about the thermal circulation. It's like a shotgun. You fire a couple shells and then you reload, which does work really well if you charge the implant and then basically dump the DPS on your targets. This is basically how I use this implant for PvP on the Megathron Striker. Now in this case, I'm actually using the implant for PvE, and it does work really well. Combining the implant with the siege mode, it does slap. This thing does wreck. However, you have to be careful, because if you overheat the implant, you will face a big penalty of a massive DPS reduction, and you also face a much longer cooldown, which will last until the implant is on heat level 0. And of course the cycle of the weapon also has to finish, and this is why I say that you should never let the thermal circulation implant overheat, because if you do, you are in trouble. Now there's actually a very interesting use for the thermal circulation implant. Ironically, the overheat is more helpful and more beneficial for non-railgun ships than for railgun ships, because you can actually use a very weird build. Let's say you take an Abaddon, you fit 6 or 7 lasers, and then you fit 1 railgun, and you fit a thermal circulation implant. You can actually use the level 30 attribute to gain 50% extra armor and hull resistance, and that effect does stack with the level 15 secondary. So if you hit overheat with that one railgun, your other weapons will not be affected. By the way, it only affects railguns. So that one railgun with 7 lasers on an Abaddon with a very chunky build with a level 30 thermal circulation implant can be can be very tanky, can be ridiculous tanky, and the effect does stack, as I mentioned. So you get about 98% resistance without a damage control, and a ship like that is practically, well, I won't say immortal, because they still die given enough DPS, but they're ridiculously hard to kill. And ironically, the thermal circulation implant in that aspect works much better on a non-railgun ship than on an actual railgun ship, which is again kind of funny, because if you were to use the same trick on a railgun ship, you will definitely lose DPS. So you will definitely lose a lot of DPS. So yeah, that's kind of funny, and something that I think players should know if they decide to go with this implant. But it is still, I would say, my favorite implant. I've used it on the Revelation, I've used it on literally all of my armor tanks. It is a universal implant that just works flawlessly on all armor tanks. Now, the Sunshine ships that I'm fighting here are obviously using lasers, and in this case they also, well, they actually do use a lot of neutralizers and a lot of Nosferatus, very similar to Blood Raiders, but I would say Sunshine might be a little bit easier to kill. Now the loot drop can be exponentially, I mean, the loot drop can be amazing. Today I had, as I mentioned before, today I had a pretty good Inquisitor run here. Found 1.5 or 1.6 billion in blueprints. It dropped like couple laser burst aerators that I'm currently building, and I will be selling them on the market very soon. So that's going to be fun. Now, armor tanks have this advantage. I mean, I'm kind of trying to figure out how much this change in passive shield tanking is going to push the balance between the navies, since I already planned to buy a Raven Navy. Now the Raven Navy is even a better option because of the passive recharge, and given enough time, maybe even within this month, maybe next month, when they change the passive recharge again, when let's say they improve it and let's say they add 600 seconds to the Navy ships, the passive tank Raven Navy is going to be absolutely insane. So the question is, which one would work better? Now there is of course a lot of, let's say, situations to include when talking about something like this, but I would say generally speaking both are good in their own way. If you like armor tank, then the Megathron Navy and Apocalypse Navy will definitely run really well. If you like shield tanks, they will also run really well. So again, in the end, doesn't matter which one you pick, both will work just fine. So yeah, I mean, it's still very interesting how much they changed the passive recharge. It means that they have definitely listened to us, because I know that a lot of players wanted that passive recharge, and we did get something like that, but as I mentioned at the start of the video, there is still room for improvement, and it's a step in the right direction, and I hope that they keep moving into the right direction. Now, I actually tried to use a rock in these special anomalies. I have to say the rock did well. I'm very happy with the performance, but the shield boosters just eat so much capacity. It makes armor tanks really shine in these Sunshine Blood Raider anomalies because of the very low capacity usage by your modules, and this is one very clear advantage that armor tank ships have. In PvP, most of my ships nowadays, I mean, I have the Macariel, which is an armor tank now. I have also the Celos, which is a shield tank. It really depends on the ship, honestly. I have a equal amount of armor and shield tanks, I believe. I have a Fiend, and that Fiend is a active tank, I believe. And very soon I believe that Fiend will be put to use again, since I'm very interested to see how quickly that shield will be recharged, since they have also, I mean, the Fiend was by default, back when they had a 300-second recharge, the Fiend was amazing to be used as a passive tank. It was absolutely incredible. Now it's very close to that. Still can be, the recharge can be reduced to 600 seconds, I believe, easily, or even 450, 500 seconds, or perhaps even can be kept the same, but the new shield generators should be buffed. So we have a couple options here. Either the shield generators are massively buffed from 7.6% to about 50%, I would say, 50 or 45%, or the passive ship shield recharge has to be buffed from 900 seconds to 450 or even 500 seconds, around that number. So these are the two options that we have right now. And honestly, it is kind of a very interesting topic, which one would be more balanced, because if we do buff the ship's recharge, then it might even be more ridiculous with the generators. But at the same time, if the generators are buffed, then if they ever release capital generators, then the Wyvern will be tanking 500,000 DPS passively, minimum. So it is kind of a tricky question, to be honest. I still think that there is a way to get it to work on all ships without being too ridiculous. So I would say a combination of both, a buff on the ship's shield recharge, but at the same time a buff on the shield's generators. So overall, quite a interesting topic. Now, one extremely interesting thing that I kind of forgot to mention: the new armor plates, the lightweight armor plates, have been massively buffed. Like, they have received like a plus 50% buff on armor, which is absolutely insane, since the armor plates don't give you the same speed penalty. At the moment, I would say that the new armor plates are much better than the new shield extenders or shield generators, because the armor plates just give such a massive raw amount of hit points. You can oversize a Navy frigate with a medium armor plate, and you can get maybe 7 to 10, 15,000 armor hit points on a frigate, which can result to a total of, I would say, an estimate of about 75 to maybe 100,000 EHP on a bloody frigate. So we're talking about a cruiser level tank on a Navy frigate. And of course, they have received an extra low slot recently. I know that their IP cost is a bit insane, but that's just the price. That's just how much they cost on the market when you go and look at the material cost. It is really that expensive. That's what the price goes for in the market. So yeah, that's how it goes. But the Navy frigates are really strong now, and the only thing that is kind of helping them is that they're very cheap on the market. So if you end up losing one, you can just buy a new one on the market, very cheap on the market, but a very expensive loss mail, which kind of sucks, because I know not many players like to have big loss mails in their combat log, so I can kind of see the reason behind a lot of things. But yeah, the Navy frigates have been pretty good so far. I mean, when I say pretty good, I flew them. They're fun. I like them. It's just that their IP cost is insane. Much cheaper just buy on the market than to just, use the IP cost, since that's just the estimated IP of the ship, which is about 18 billion. I killed a Tristan Navy back when they were 1.8 billion, and I kind of feel robbed, because I could have had a 18 billion Tristan, but it's fine, not a big deal. A Navy frigate kill is a Navy frigate kill. I kill it with an Aster, so it's fine. The Megathron Navy, on their hand, has been performing well. I really do like this ship. And the insurance cost is also kind of insane. I mean, it is cheaper to just buy a new one from the market than to just IP one of these things, since it will cost you like 20 billion. I don't know. I think it's like 15 billion, but I say 20 billion because of, you know, just a feeling that I have that it might be more than that. I haven't really checked the insurance cost of this particular ship, but it probably is pretty high. In any case, it does perform really well. Very happy with the railgun performance. I mean, it does clear fast, you know. I can definitely tell that it does. It slaps harder and it clears faster. Personally, I was already fine with the performance of the ship before the buff. The performance of this ship is pretty good now. I mean, obviously better than before, so nothing there to really complain about in the aspect of performance on this ship. It does get the job done really well. So overall, been a very interesting patch, honestly. Now I haven't tried out the new implants yet. Seems interesting. I'm waiting for them to be available on the test server, so that I can show you guys how they would work. Since I believe that it's really the cannon implant, I think it will be insane. If it is what I think it is, then I'm definitely getting one, and I'm definitely going to be using it for the cells, because I feel like if the implant does work the way I imagine that it work, it's going to make the cells slap so hard it's not going to be funny. I mean, the cells has received a lot of love recently. They have like improved the passive shield regeneration. If I ever get a large generator, I'm definitely using it on the cells. The passive recharge on that thing is going to be pretty wild. So I already have a bunch of new ideas with that ship. Should be pretty interesting. And overall, the buff on tracking, buff on the overall damage is also quite notable. And now the cells does start to feel like its own ship, I would say. So far I've used it like a Cinnaball. It still kind of feels like a Cinnaball. Does work really well though, and I'm not complaining about the performance, but now it kind of started to have its own persona, I would say. It's not, doesn't feel like a Cinnaball anymore. It feels like its own thing, and I feel like the other faction cruisers have also received the same treatment, and I'll be trying them all out, of course. The cells specifically, because that is one of my primary PvP ships that I use, and so far I've had a blast with it. It's an amazing ship, and very happy to see the cells being improved. That passive shield recharge is going to be really helpful on that thing. That's going to be fun to try out. I might even develop a build with dual modules, basically dual generators, or one generator and one large extender, or even a medium generator or a medium extender and a large generator. There is a lot of combinations that I want to try out, honestly. So I think that's going to be, I believe that's going to be quite fun to try out, and I think, I mean, right now, what is the best special faction cruiser? Fiend is very good. Chameleon, kind of weird with the special mode. I think the cells might be the best one. I don't know. I might be wrong. Might be, you know, might be wrong on that one. But I flew all of them, and I somehow found that the cells seems to be slapping the hardest. I already had too much fun with that thing. I don't know. I tried them all out, and somehow the cells ended up being the most fun to fly one. But again, we will see. I'll be, as I mentioned before, I'll be trying them all out again. I mean, The chameleon with the passive recharge though, that's going to be pretty wild. I think all of the new special faction crews have received much more love, which is very happy. I'm very happy that's the case. It's gonna be very wild. I think the chameleon might be pretty insane now, actually, when you think about it. Very high resistance, and if you slap, yeah, that's gonna be wild. Oh my god, as I'm recording it, I'm having so many new ideas. It's been a very interesting patch so far, honestly. So I have a lot of work to do, I guess. It will be fun to test out all of the interesting ideas that I have in mind. I'm very glad that I did not sell any of my special ships. I didn't intend to sell them. I didn't. I decided to keep them. Very smart choice that I did that. Maybe their price will actually go up now because of the new buffs. They have been buffed. Could be that they're now more valuable. I don't know. We will see. The market will do its thing, I guess, and we will see how things will go. So the Megathron Navy. This monster is performing really well now. Well, I mean, I say really well now. It's been performing really well before, but performance gains are definitely noticeable, and overall the performance of the railings has been improved. Very fun to fly ship, very strong, very tanky. Again, tank is the main selling point of the navies, and I'm very happy that that's the case. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me down in the comments below. And well, I hope you guys enjoyed this little run with the Megathron Navy. Again, this is a fantastic ship, and I honestly have had a lot of fun flying it so far. So with that being said, if you want to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. Stay safe, fly safe, and as always, I'll see you next time.